Carrie Messer's hand reached across the sheets and met nothing but cool fabric. The other side of the bed was empty. He sat up fast, suddenly wide awake, listening for any sound that could explain it. A cough from the hallway, water in the sink, the soft shuffle of a walking boot on the floor. Nothing. He got up and moved through the farmhouse near Bloomsdale, Missouri, calling Lynn's name once, then again. He checked the bathroom. He checked the kitchen. He looked into the rooms where she might have gone to start the day early, but the house held steady, silent, and ordinary, as if it had never noticed the shift. Lynn's purse was still there. Her phone hadn't gone with her. Her driver's license and passport were still in the house. Her wallet and car keys were still inside, too. The walking boot she had been using because of a broken toe hadn't moved. If she had stepped outside without it, she would have been doing it in pain. He walked the immediate areas around the home, scanning gravel paths and the edge of the yard. He looked toward the barns and fences, toward the pasture where cattle stood, breathing and waiting to be fed. There were no headlights in the distance, no fresh tire tracks leading away, no obvious sign of a forced entry, no shattered glass, no broken door frame, no overturned furniture. Just the same farm where Lynn had lived, and a wife who should have been in it. Within a short time, the question had hardened into a fact no one wanted to accept. Lynn Messer, 52, was missing. She had last been seen alive in the early hours of July 8, 2014. The last known communication she made with anyone beyond the house was a phone call late the night before. Then, sometime after, she vanished without taking the things people take when they mean to leave. When the sheriff's office was notified, deputies and search crews came onto the property and began working the scene the way you work a disappearance that starts at home. They walked the house, they checked outbuildings, they searched the farmstead and moved outward. Because Lynn had an injured foot and appeared to have left without the boot, law enforcement classified her as an endangered missing person. The decision mattered. It meant urgency. It meant resources. It meant people moving fast before time could erase what the first hours might still hold. Search and rescue teams joined in. K-9 handlers brought dogs to pick up Lynn's scent. The dogs tracked away from the farmhouse, but in a rural landscape, scent is fragile. Later that day, routine farm work continued, and the movement of cattle across fields and pasture edges disturbed the ground and the air in ways that can break a trail. Even when everyone is trying to do the right thing, a working farm does not freeze in place just because something terrible might have happened. The farmhouse itself was searched thoroughly on the first day and revisited later by investigators. People looked for signs of a struggle, for evidence of someone else inside the house, for anything that would point to a clear explanation. Early on, authorities did not announce evidence of a break-in or a confirmed abduction. That didn't make anyone feel better. It only narrowed the possibilities in a way that raised new fears. The search pushed into woods and brush, across the edges where fields meet tree lines, into the places that can hide a person from view even when you are only a few yards away. Volunteers formed lines and walked shoulder to shoulder, scanning the ground for disturbed leaves, clothing, anything out of place. They checked creek beds and low areas, the spots where someone could slip or collapse and be hard to see from a road. Friends and neighbors showed up because the only thing worse than not knowing is knowing you did nothing. In the middle of it all was one detail that investigators acknowledged but did not fully reveal. Lynn had left a note. Its complete contents were not made public, and in the absence of specifics, it became another piece of the case that people argued over. It existed. It was real. But it did not answer the central question of where Lynn had gone and what had happened to her after she left the house. Days turned into weeks. The initial surge of search activity could not be sustained at the same intensity forever. But the effort never truly stopped. The family kept searching. Volunteers kept coming back. Over time, the search expanded across thousands of acres as people worked outward from the place she was last known to be. Posters went up in St. Genevieve County and surrounding areas. Tips came in. Some were detailed and urgent. Some were vague. Many led nowhere. Each tip, even a bad one, could pull people into another round of hope and dread. The longer Lynn was missing, the more the farm itself became a kind of accusation. How could someone disappear from a home in the middle of the night and leave behind her identification, her money, her keys, and the boot that helped her walk? How could searchers cover so much ground and find nothing? Questions settled over the case because the facts refused to settle into a simple narrative. Then time moved into years, and the case remained unresolved in public view. Investigators did not announce a definitive explanation. They did not announce a cause of death because there was no death to explain. All anyone had was a disappearance and the memory of that morning when a bed was empty and a house held every sign of Lynn's life except Lynn herself. More than 2 years after she vanished, the Messer farm delivered the discovery everyone feared and needed at the same time. On November 1st, 2016, skeletal remains were found on the Messer property in a wooded area near the back edge of the family's land, close to a cow pasture. Items recovered with the remains, including glasses and evidence of artificial hips, led investigators to believe quickly that they had found Lynn. Dental records later confirmed that the remains were hers. The location landed with a sickening weight. She had not been found miles away. She had not been discovered in another state. She was on the farm, on property that had been searched again and again, close enough to the home that her absence had turned it into a crime scene in the minds of everyone who loved her. Investigators said the remains appeared to have been in that area for the span of time, from her disappearance to the day she was discovered. From what was recovered, a definitive cause of death could not be determined. The case remained open, not because there was a neat answer waiting, but because the evidence could not close the door on questions. For Lynn's loved ones, the timeline snapped into 2 hard pieces: the morning she was gone and the day they learned she had been on the farm the entire time. In between were the years of searching, the strain of uncertainty, and the grinding disbelief of knowing that a place can be combed by hundreds of eyes and still keep its secret. In the end, the known facts stayed stubbornly clear. Lynn Messer disappeared from her farmhouse near Bloomsdale in the early hours of July 8, 2014, leaving behind the things she would normally take with her, including the boot she used for a broken toe. An extensive search followed with local and federal assistance. Her remains were found on the family farm on November 1st, 2016, and identified through dental records. No definitive cause of death was announced. What happened to Lynn in the hours after she left her home is still not something the public can state with certainty. But the place where the story began is the place where it ended, a working farm and a wooded edge holding the only answer it ever gave back. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.